Warning: this story contains heavy themes of blood, gore, suicide, sexual assault, self-harm, and yandere themes. This story also contains spoilers for manga and anime. Listener's discretion is advised. As the soft glow of the dawn began to flutter through the trees, Yin maneuvered through the slowly receding darkness, with the sleeping child cradled in her arms. His tiny body nestled against her as they made their way back to the modest home she shared with her mentor. The warmth of his small form felt comforting, a sharp contrast to the tormented storm of emotions that turned within her. She pushed open the door, her heart racing as she entered, mindful of the cautious that had always colored her mentor's gaze. Kayako, despite reaching the age of wisdom, kept her sharp intentions and sat up from her bedding, her expression shifting from a groggy curiosity to alarm as she caught sight of the child. "Yin, did you?" she gasped, instantly stepping forward, concern echoed across her face. "Is he?" "No," Yin interjected, her voice firm yet soothing. "I found him in the woods. He was lost and crying, I swear. I didn't hurt him." The sincerity in her words hung in the air, and her mentor's features softened, though a shadow of worry still lingered. Later the child stirred, blinking sheepishly, before his eyes widened in surprise. As soon as he registered his surroundings, a transformation took place. A defiant sparkle ignited in his gaze. He sprung from her embrace, his cheeks puffing up in excitement. "What is this place?" he asked, crossing his arms with a huff. "And what's with the ridiculous mask? You think it makes you look cool or something?" That caught off guard by his sudden sharp attitude, she raised an eyebrow, half amused. Yin remained seated in the dark corner, observing the child's behavior as he ran around the small cottage. "Hey, slow down," she called, a laugh almost escaping her lips as he dashed around, bumping into furniture. Kayako sighed, watching with a mix of expression and embarrassment. "Where's your home?" Kayako asked gently, hoping to glean more about the boy's circumstances. The child shrugged, turning his head away defiantly. Despite his almost bratty behavior, there was an undying sadness in the boy's expression that only perspective being like Kayako could see. "I don't have one," he said quietly. "Just let me stay here. I'll do whatever chores or whatever." He pouted, as exaggerated, but a hint of vulnerability in his eyes tugged at your heart. "Staying here isn't that simple," Kayako replied, trying to maintain her composure. But the boy only scowled, his face flustered. "It's not like I want to stay here forever or anything." The stubbornness in his voice was undeniable. The two women felt a mix of sympathy and amusement of the unexpected persona. "Will we let him stay?" the Phoenix Demon asked. She was torn. One side considered the fate of the boy should he leave, venturing out in the darkness of the forest. The other worrying for his safety should he stay in the den of a monster more terrifying than anything else out in the world. Kayako's perplexed eyes could sense her inner turmoil. She turned to the boy, who obviously waited for their response, yet acting as if he didn't care for their decision at all. As he flopped onto the floor, arms crossed, Yin realized that beneath his brash exterior lay a longing for connection that mirrored her own struggles. The sun streamed through the windows, illuminating parts of the room, and in the light that she longed to feel, she understood why they were both searching for a place to belong, each navigating their own paths through the shadows, abrupt in very different ways. Within the butterfly estate, silence wove itself into the trees. only breaking by the rustle of leaves that stir under the approach of night. It was as if the world itself held its breath, waiting for something unknown, yet ominous, certain. In the heart of the Hashira stronghold, a meeting was held. The war had been won. Muzan Kibutsuji, the embodiment of all they had fought to destroy, had been vanished. The Demon King's tyranny had ended, but victory felt hollow, a breath too shallow, a song unfinished. There was still a sense of unease that permitted the air, a lingering shadow that refused to fade. Her name coded like a ghost in the room, whispered, tendered, laced with concern. Yen Lin, the woman who had once stood among them as human, before Muzan's curse had twisted her fate. They remembered you not as the demon you had become, but as the person they had known before. And now, after the battle, there was only one thought on their minds. They had to find you. They had to bring you back. She's out there somewhere, muttered Tanjiro, his voice a soft, concerned breath, the deeper silence of the room. His brows were furrowed, his gaze intent. She didn't choose this. Muzan, he fused with her, poured his powers into her, but I know there's still humanity inside her. I've seen it. The others sat complexed in silence. I'm sorry, I always make the two the same name. Kanau's widened eyes flickered, the shallow of loss and hope warning in her chest. Beside her, Genya trembled, not out of fear, but a strange, desperate anxiety. The thought of you out there alone, lost and corrupted by demon blood, was unbearable to him. Although they were short experiences, he himself knew that it was like a dirty demon blood running through his veins. He clenched his fist, jaw tightened with helplessness. The stone pillar's usual satin eyes deepened, the scar on his forehead more pronounced in the flickering light of the lanterns. She's dangerous now, Tanjiro, he sighed. You think Muzan's gone, but he still lives inside her. We need to treat her like any other demon. No, Tanjiro responded firmly, shaking his head. She never wanted this. We can still help her. We have to. In his heart, Tanjiro held onto a vision of you, bright-eyed, strong-willed, untouched by the curse that now strained your experience. It was a vision that consumed him, much as the thought of Muzan had before. He couldn't shake the need to find you, to bring you back from the darkness. The bond he felt with you was deep, unspoken, and it pulled at him like an inviting thread. The water pillar stood against the far wall, his arms crossed, faced impassive, but even he could not deny the weight of the emotions in the room. There was something magnetic about the thought of you, something that gnawed at them all. An obsession born of both care and with something deeper, more primal, something none of them could quite understand. She could be anywhere, Kanao whispered, her voice barely audible. Her fingers twitched at the thought of you, remembering the day they had last seen your human self, the kindness in your eyes, the way you had cared for the wounded without hesitation. Now, that same face, the one they couldn't forget, was twisted by demon blood, hiding in the shadows, afraid of what she had become. You had fled after the final battle, slipping under the cover of night before any of them could reach you. None of them knew what you had seen in those last moments with Muzan, but they could sense the torment in your heart. 3 of the upper moons are out there too, Giyu said, his voice steady, but the edge of warning. They were cured, but they escaped while we were still recovering. They could be after her as well, looking for revenge, or worse. The sound pillar sitting nearby, his eyes half closed, flickered a glance at Giyu. You were saying they might try and kill her? I'm saying we don't know, Guy replied. They could see her as a threat or a prize. Either way, they're dangerous. The thought sent a shiver through the group, a collective dread that clung to them like a damp frog. The upper moons, Akaza, Doma, and Kokoshibo, had once been Muzan's most powerful generals. Even as humans, they retained their cunning and their strength. The idea of them hunting you down, either to reclaim the power you carried or to end it, was a possibility none of them could ignore. We'll find her first, Tanjiro said, standing with a resolve. His hands were trembling, not from fear, but with determination. She's not alone. We won't leave her to that fate. The others nodded, though their hearts felt wavery. They could not shake the strange, unwavering pull they felt when they thought of you. Something deeper than duty drove them forward. It was a complex they couldn't explain, a need to find you, to save you, as if their own repel lay in salvation. Michiro, quiet as usual, spoke up, his voice cracking slightly. When we find her, will she even remember us? He didn't voice the deeper fear lingered beneath his breath. Would you still care for them? Would you still see them as your comrades or friends? Or had Muzan's influence twisted that too? Tanjiro's eyes softened, a flicker of sadness crossing his face. She'll remember. She has to. And so, the Hashira and their companions planned their search, their minds clouded by both fear and an instant longing. They were all bound to you by invisible threads, unwavering of the course that had lingered in the shadows of their hearts, driving them forward, pulling them toward you with a force, a defined reason. As they prepared to leave, none of them could know the true danger. It wasn't just the upper moons or the remnants of Muzan's will that haunted you. It was the curse that ran through your blood far longer than the demon blood had. The power that none of them yet understood. The curse that would drive even the purest of hearts to madness if they ever found you.